Hey guys, tonight we're going to lie beneath a sky so wide it almost forgets where it began. Imagine your ceiling melting into deep, dark velvet, tiny pinpricks of light scattered across it like someone spilled a handful of diamonds and forgot to clean them up. We're going to talk about something that feels simple until it isn't. Can the universe be infinite and still have an edge? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing who's awake with me under this same cosmic blanket. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine lying in bed, eyes half open, staring into the darkness of your room. The hum of the fan mixes with your breath. The darkness here feels different from the darkness outside your window. Inside, ends at the walls. Outside, it feels like it doesn't end at all. But what if even the endless sky has a kind of boundary, a limit you can't touch but that still exists? The word edge makes you think of cliffs, of fences, of something you could fall off if you walk too far. But in space, edges aren't like that. You could keep walking in one direction forever and somehow never find a wall. It's one of those truths that makes the universe both comforting and slightly rude. It refuses to fit inside the boxes we like to make. You could picture yourself stepping out into that cosmic dark. The ground dissolves, gravity takes a coffee break, and there's nothing beneath your feet but light years of emptiness. Stars don't twinkle here. They just are, silent and patient, each one a tiny lighthouse whose beam left home millions or billions of years ago. You can float as far as your mind lets you, and still no edge. Just more and more of everything, stretching beyond any measure you know. The problem with infinity is that it doesn't behave. We love beginnings and endings. They help us measure our days, our books, our lives. Infinity laughs at that. You ask it where it stops, and it asks, why would I? So we build metaphors. Imagine walking on a huge plane, perfectly flat, so vast you never see the curve of it. You could walk forever and think it never ends. But if that plane were secretly curved like the surface of a globe, then one day, if you were immortal, tireless, and really committed, you'd end up right back where you started, swearing you never turned. That's the strange thing about space. It could be infinite, or it could be finite but unbounded. That's the phrase scientists like to use. Finite but unbounded. It sounds poetic and frustrating, like describing a dream you almost remember. The Earth's surface is finite. You can measure it, map it, but if you walk around, there's no edge. It loops smoothly back on itself. Now, take that idea, stretch it into 3 dimensions, and that might be our universe. A cosmic loop, no wall, no cliff, just a grand curve folding quietly through itself. If you think about it, our language betrays us. The universe is expanding. Into what exactly? There's no outside. Space doesn't grow into something. It just stretches itself. Galaxies aren't racing through a void. The void itself is pulling them apart. Imagine dots on a balloon. As you blow air in, the dots move away from each other, but none of them are traveling toward a specific outside. The surface itself is changing. If you lived on that surface, you'd think everything else was moving away from you, and you'd be right. And wrong. At the same time, you could pause here, close your eyes, and listen to the silence between your heartbeats. That's how astronomers feel when they think about the cosmic horizon. It's the farthest we can see, about 46 billion light years in any direction. Beyond that, there are more galaxies, more stars, maybe whole regions of space that will never send us their light because the fabric between us is stretching faster than light can cross it. It's not a wall. It's a curtain of time. We can't see farther, not because there's nothing beyond, but because time hasn't allowed the light to reach us yet. The edge of the observable universe isn't where the universe stops. It's where our story ends for now. You might wonder, if light can't reach us, are those places real? Or do they fade from existence when no one can see them? The universe doesn't care about our definitions of real. Those places still exist, humming along in the grand symphony of everything, like a note too high for our ears to catch. Every now and then a piece of light, an ancient photon, drops into one of our telescopes. It's been traveling since the beginning, through eons of space that have stretched so much its wavelength is now microwave, the faint warmth left over from the Big Bang. We call it the cosmic microwave background, but you could call it a photograph of the baby universe, still glowing from the moment it became transparent. We live inside that afterglow. You, lying there listening, your phone's soft glow painting your face. That light around you was born from the same moment as the light now bouncing off your wall. If we could step outside time for a moment, we'd see a strange shape, a history that expands and thins, everything moving away from everything else, yet held together by the same rules. We'd see a universe without edges but filled with limits, of light, of time, of what can influence what. It's infinite in one sense and heartbreakingly finite in another. You can't touch the edge of the universe because there's nowhere to stand outside it. You're inside the everything. You always have been. Maybe that's why thinking about it feels oddly intimate. When you picture infinity, you're really brushing against your own limits, the edge of what your mind can hold. Everywhere needs a somewhere else, and space refuses to give us that comfort. But if you let that unease dissolve, if you stop trying to cage the cosmos in your thoughts, it becomes peaceful, like floating in deep water, too far from shore to care which way is home. The stars you see tonight aren't where they seem. Their light has traveled so long that entire civilizations could rise and fall before those photons arrive. Some of those stars are gone now, but their light still streams through your window. That's how time stretches here. The farther you look, the further back you go. Every glance at the sky is also a kind of archaeology, a quiet excavation through the layers of cosmic memory. You're seeing the past, arranged in patterns that pretend to be the present. So when we say the universe is infinite, what we really mean is we haven't found its edge, and we're not sure the word edge applies. It might be looping. It might be open. It might be one infinite plane or a cosmic donut, or something stranger than any shape we've imagined. But whatever it is, it's not nothing. And that's the part that makes my mind hum. The universe isn't expanding into emptiness. It's expanding its own being. Space itself is the act of becoming. And in that becoming, everything we know, your heartbeat, your memories, your favorite song, the light on your nightstand, all of it participates. You're not in the universe like an object in a box. You're part of it, an event happening inside its fabric. That might sound poetic, but it's also literal. Every atom in you was forged in stars that burned out billions of years ago. You are a temporary arrangement of ancient fire cooled into thought. The atoms in your body once belonged to supernovae, to comets, maybe even to a distant planet's ocean long gone. The universe doesn't have edges. It has echoes, and you are one of them. So when you close your eyes tonight, you're not closing them on the universe. You're closing them within it. You're surrounded by it, carried by it, shaped by it. The darkness behind your eyelids isn't empty. It's full of quiet energy, humming softly at absolute zero, stretched thin but never gone. That hum, the faint microwave whisper from the Big Bang, still vibrates through everything, through you. It's the closest thing to a heartbeat the cosmos has ever had. And maybe that's the secret. The universe doesn't need an edge because it's not trying to contain itself. It's just breathing slowly, endlessly outward. Like you. You know that feeling when you try to explain something so big it almost laughs at you for trying? That's where we are tonight. You've probably said words like infinite, endless, forever, and universe your whole life without ever stopping to ask what they actually mean. They sound solid when you say them out loud, like smooth stones in your hand, but the moment you look closer, they melt away. And yet, they're the only tools we have to talk about everything that exists. So here you are again, lying down, The hum of the fan in the background, the rhythm of your breath syncing with the slow turning of the planet. Somewhere far above you, billions of galaxies are moving, stretching away from one another in a cosmic dance that began before there were even names for light or distance. And we, little storytellers that we are, have decided to call it the universe. The word universe itself just means everything turned into one. The ancient thinkers meant it quite literally, all things rolled into a single verse. But even everything is a slippery word. Does it mean everything we can see, everything that has existed, or every possibility that could exist in places where light will never reach us? We keep saying everything, but what we really mean is everything we can imagine. The universe doesn't care what we can imagine. It keeps expanding anyway. Now infinite. That's another one that sounds big, but feels hollow when you try to picture it. Say it out loud softly. Infinite. The sound falls away at the end, like it's disappearing into the dark. Infinity is one of those ideas that only makes sense in math and poetry. You can't stand in front of infinity. You can't point at it. You can only feel it as a sort of ache, a stretching in the back of your thoughts. Try this. Imagine counting forever. You never reach the end, but every number still exists somewhere ahead of you. Infinity is not a place. It's a direction that never stops. And then there's edge. Edges are comforting. You know when you've reached the edge of a bed, a map, or a town. There's security in endings. They frame our stories, give shape to our days. When we think of an edge to the universe, we imagine something like a wall or a line drawn in glowing dust beyond which there's only black. Maybe even a sign that says, "You've reached the end," but space doesn't work that way. You can't mark an edge in something that curves through itself. There's no finish line for existence, no wall waiting for your hand to press against it. This is where the human brain rebels. You want to ask, okay, but what's outside of that? It's an innocent question. We were raised in rooms, in towns, on islands. Everywhere we go has an outside. But the universe isn't inside something else. It's all there is. If you somehow stepped beyond what we call the universe, you wouldn't find a void waiting. You'd just find more universe, unfolding in ways your senses can't register. The universe doesn't need an outside because it's the thing that defines inside and outside to begin with. Think of a fish in the ocean. The fish doesn't wonder what's beyond the water. It lives in the only medium it's ever known. The ocean has shores, yes, but from the fish's perspective, it's endless. That's what it's like for us. We're not outside the universe looking in. We're the fish moving through a current so vast we can't see the boundaries of the water. And this is where words start to fail. We use them like little ladders to climb toward understanding, but sometimes we forget that the ladders were built for rooms, not for skies. Edge, infinite, space. They help us gesture towards something enormous, but they also shrink it to human size. And the cosmos refuses to stay small. When scientists talk about curved space or finite but unbounded geometry, they're really trying to say, the universe might be shaped in a way that has no edge but still wraps around itself. Picture an ant crawling across the surface of an orange. The ant thinks it's walking in a straight line forever, but if it keeps going, it will return to the place it started without ever turning around. That's how space could work. You could travel forever in one direction and eventually loop back home, though the trip would take longer than the age of the universe. And maybe that's for the best. This isn't just abstract math. It has emotional weight too. We live inside these words. We use them to describe love, loss, dreams. You've probably told someone you'd love them forever, or that you'd wait an eternity. What you meant wasn't a number. It was a feeling of something so big it couldn't fit inside time. Infinity is a human metaphor long before it's a mathematical one. But it's strange, isn't it? The same word that describes your endless affection also describes the size of the cosmos. It's as if we instinctively know that the same vastness lives inside us and around us. When we stare up at the stars, maybe that's what we're really recognizing, that the infinite outside us is somehow mirrored by the infinite inside us. Still, we keep searching for language that can hold both. Astronomers try to measure it in megaparsecs and redshifts. Poets just sigh and say, forever. Neither is wrong. They're just looking through different lenses. You could describe the horizon with equations, or you could describe it with longing. It's the same line, seen by different eyes. There's also another word we forget about: nothing. When we talk about the edge of the universe, we picture a line where something becomes nothing. But true nothingness is almost impossible to imagine. Even the vacuum of space isn't empty. It's buzzing with quantum energy, virtual particles popping in and out of existence like invisible fireflies. So if you reach what you thought was the edge, you wouldn't step into nothing. You'd step into something subtler, quieter, still full of possibility. And here's the most fascinating part. When physicists describe the shape of the universe, they're also describing time. Space and time are tangled together in ways that mean the edge of space might also be the beginning of time. That's how the Big Bang works. It wasn't an explosion in space. It was an expansion of space, of time itself. So when you ask, what was before the Big Bang? The universe simply shrugs. There was no before, because time hadn't started yet. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question sounds logical, but the answer dissolves in your hands. You can feel that logic slipping through you, can't you? Like sand between your fingers. It's not that you can't understand it. It's that it was never meant to be held too tightly. That's the beauty of these ideas. They aren't puzzles to be solved, but lullabies to be felt. When you let go of needing to grasp infinity, it becomes strangely gentle. Like the hum of the refrigerator in the next room, or the faraway sound of a car passing in the night. Constant, distant, eternal. Take a slow breath. Think of yourself floating in that dark ocean again. The words you've just heard. Universe, infinite, edge. They're little lights, bobbing in the distance, guiding you but never quite colliding with the truth itself. The truth is too big for any single word, too beautiful to live in one shape. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the reason we can't see the edge of the universe is because we are each of us, a tiny, conscious ripple in an endless field of being wondering about itself. And so, as your thoughts begin to slow, the words start to soften. Infinite becomes vast. Vast becomes wide. Wide becomes calm. The edges of meaning blur, just like the edges of your awareness. You begin to feel it, don't you? That sense of floating not through space, but through understanding itself. You're not trying to reach the end anymore. You're just drifting gently in the presence of something that never needed an edge to begin with. Picture yourself walking. You don't know where you started, and you don't really care where you're going. You just keep walking. The ground beneath your feet feels endless, smooth, unbroken. The stars above hang like silent witnesses, glimmering through an air so still it feels like time itself is holding its breath. Step after step, hour after hour, you move forward and everything looks the same. You start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're walking across something much larger than you can ever comprehend. The first thing you notice about infinity, if you could notice such a thing, is that it doesn't rush you. It's patient. It lets you take as long as you need to realize you'll never reach an edge. That's the strange comfort of it. When you walk across the surface of Earth, it feels flat. The ground doesn't curve beneath your feet. The trees don't lean backward into the horizon. You don't feel the roundness of the planet, yet you know it's there. You've seen the photographs, the swirling blue marble hanging in space. Still, standing on the ground, it feels like infinity stretches in every direction. Now imagine that the universe might be like that, only three-dimensional. A shape so immense you can't detect its curvature because you're too small, too close to the surface. If you could travel far enough, in one straight line, maybe you'd return to where you began. That's what a finite but unbounded universe means. You can keep walking and you'll never fall off, but you might eventually find yourself right back where you started, looking around and realizing the landscape seems strangely familiar. It's a wild idea that space could curve in on itself, wrapping everything up in one seamless loop. You can't see the curve, just like you can't feel the Earth's. It hides in plain sight, woven into the geometry of reality. It means there might be no center, no edge, no outer boundary at all. Only an intricate shape that folds through itself in ways your senses can't follow. And yet, when you walk through your daily life, through hallways, down streets, into sunlight and back into rooms, you live as though space is flat. Your coffee cup sits on the table, and gravity feels like a straight pull downward. It's simple, comforting, but deep down, the real story is stranger. Gravity isn't pulling you down. It's guiding you along curved space, nudging you to follow the geometry carved by everything that has mass. You're not falling toward the Earth. You're following the shape of the universe itself, just like planets and stars and galaxies do. Every step you take is part of that curve. You don't notice it, but you're walking across a tiny piece of cosmic architecture built on invisible geometry that keeps everything balanced. The space between atoms, the arc of the moon, the spin of galaxies, it's all part of the same grand curvature. Einstein showed us that gravity isn't a force tugging on objects. It's the bending of space and time. And that means everything you do, every breath, every blink, every thought takes place inside that bend. You're not in space. You're a space, briefly aware of itself. Now imagine if you could zoom out, way out, past the Earth, past the moon, past the swirl of our solar system and the bright ribbon of our Milky Way. Keep going. The galaxies start to look like glowing islands scattered in a black ocean. Zoom out farther still until those islands fade into a cosmic mist. From that distance, the entire universe might look smooth, uniform, like a great glowing fabric stretched gently in every direction. That's the shape you're walking across. But here's the beautiful trick. If you could walk long enough in one direction, say trillions of years from now, you might circle back around. Just like walking the surface of a planet. Except now you're moving through space itself. You wouldn't notice when it happened. There'd be no edge, no warning, just the soft realization that the stars you left behind look familiar again. Maybe the same way memories sometimes circle back when you least expect them to. Uninvited, but strangely comforting. Of course, no one has ever made that trip. The distances are too vast, and the expansion of the universe too relentless. As space itself stretches, galaxies drift farther apart faster than any ship could ever travel. So you'll never see the loop, but it might still be there, quietly folded into the background of existence. And that's what makes it fascinating. The universe could be both endless and enclosed, infinite in experience, but finite in shape. It's like being trapped in a dream where you keep walking through new rooms that all somehow belong to the same house. You don't find a wall or a door marked exit. The rooms just keep unfolding, each one leading gently into another. The universe might be doing that, folding, connecting, stretching, returning. No boundaries, no final chapter, just one long, slow inhale that never really ends. Maybe that's why we keep looking up. Somewhere deep in our bones, we sense that walking forward, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is a way of moving through that curve, tracing the shape of something bigger. Every time you stare into the night sky, you're part of that same journey. The light that hits your eyes tonight has been traveling for millions, sometimes billions, of years straight through the expanding universe. Yet straight doesn't really mean straight anymore. It means along a geodesic, the universe's idea of the shortest path, which might not look straight to us at all. That light is like a traveler that never found an edge to rest on. It's still moving even now, and when it reaches you, it ends its journey not on a wall, but on a thought. You, this small, breathing moment of awareness, become the edge it never found. If you think about it, maybe that's what edges really are. Not physical limits, but points of encounter, where something vast meets something aware. The universe doesn't stop at a wall. It stops for an instant at your understanding of it. You lying here, eyes half closed, breathing slowly. You are the temporary edge of infinity. You're the point where the infinite becomes knowable, even if just for a heartbeat. There's something almost poetic in that. The universe spends billions of years expanding, cooling, forming stars and planets. And somewhere along that path, a small creature with fragile lungs and a curious mind opens her eyes and says, "Where does it end?" Maybe that's all it ever wanted, to be seen. If you could keep walking forever, you might realize there's no line separating here from there. Just a smooth, endless continuum of space and time. You'd walk through regions of stars, through empty stretches where not even light has passed, and maybe you'd hear the faint hum of background radiation, the soft whisper left over from the beginning. That whisper is everywhere, inside every square inch of space, even in this room. It's the echo of the universe reminding you that it never needed walls to exist. The funny thing is, even though we can't walk far enough to see that curve, we can measure it. Scientists map the shape of space by looking at the oldest light, the cosmic microwave background. It tells us that, as far as we can tell, space is almost perfectly flat, but almost leaves room for wonder. A flat universe means infinite in extent. A curved one means finite but boundless, and both feel impossible. Either way, you're standing on something too vast for words. Maybe that's why this mystery feels so soothing. It reminds you that your problems, your deadlines, your memories, all of it exists on a tiny speck within a shape so wide it bends back on itself. The universe doesn't hurry, doesn't explain, doesn't worry about meaning. It just exists. Maybe the lesson is that you can too. So, if tonight your thoughts feel restless, if you're walking mental circles through your own life, retracing steps, feeling like you're not getting anywhere, remember this. Maybe circles are the point. Maybe returning to the same stars, the same memories, the same questions isn't failure. Maybe it's the universe gently curving back to remind you that everything connects, that you are never walking toward an edge. You are always walking through forever. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost feel it, the faint hum of everything. The air around you isn't truly still. It's full of invisible ripples, tiny shivers of light that have traveled across unimaginable distances. Every second, photons that began their journey billions of years ago are quietly arriving here, brushing against your skin, landing softly on the walls, and fading into warmth. You don't see most of them. You don't need to. But they're there, carrying ancient messages written in wavelengths we're only beginning to understand. Now imagine you're standing on a wide plain at dawn. The horizon glows softly, fading from deep blue into gold. And for a moment, you can see as far as your eyes will let you. Beyond that, nothing. Not because the world ends, but because light simply hasn't reached you yet. That's the same way we look at the universe. We live inside a kind of cosmic bubble defined not by walls, but by time. We can only see as far as light has had time to travel since the beginning. That distance, about 46 billion light years in every direction, is what we call the observable universe. It sounds huge, and it is, but it's not the whole thing. It's just the part that light has revealed so far. Think of it like standing in a vast, foggy forest with a flashlight. You can see a circle of trees around you, glowing faintly in the mist. But beyond that glow, more trees stretch away, endless and unseen. The universe is like that, filled with everything beyond our sight, hidden behind the fog of time. The light we see from the farthest galaxies began its journey before the Earth existed. Some of it started when there were no stars yet, just the first whispers of hydrogen gas forming clouds that would one day ignite. That light has been stretched and pulled by the expansion of space, turning redder and fainter as it travels. By the time it reaches us, it's so tired it's practically a sigh, a dim echo of its former brilliance. And yet, even that whisper tells us stories. If you could trace every photon back to its origin, you'd find a web of moments scattered across cosmic history. A star forming here, a galaxy colliding there, a quasar screaming light into the void. Each one a note in the grand symphony of a universe. What we see when we look deep into space isn't distance, it's time. Every direction is a timeline, and every flicker of light is a postcard from the past. The farther you look, the older the message. When you look at the moon, you're seeing it as it was a little more than a second ago. The sun? 8 minutes in the past. The nearest big galaxy, Andromeda, 2.5 million years ago. And a faint afterglow that wraps around the entire sky. The cosmic microwave background. That's light from almost 14 billion years ago, when the universe was just a baby, still warm and glowing from its own birth. It's strange to realize that your eyes are time machines. Every glimpse of the night sky is a look into what was. The stars that seem to shimmer now might not even exist anymore. Some may have died quietly, collapsing into dense remnants. But their light is still here, still making the long journey through space. It's like reading letters from someone who's long gone, but whose words keep arriving, one by one, across eternity. Now picture yourself floating in that vastness again. No ground beneath you. No sound except your own heartbeat. The stars are scattered all around, but you notice something subtle. The farther away they are, the faster they seem to be moving. The light from distant galaxies is stretched, its color sliding toward red, like sirens fading into the distance. That stretching isn't motion through space, it's space itself expanding. The fabric of reality is stretching, carrying galaxies with it like specks of dust caught in rising dough. That's why there's no edge. You're not looking out from a central point. You're inside an expanding fabric where every point moves away from every other point. No matter where you stand, everything seems to be receding. The illusion of a center disappears, replaced by a quiet understanding. It looks like everything's moving away from you because everything's moving away from everything. You might wonder, if everything's expanding, what's it expanding into? The answer is simple and maddening at the same time. Nothing. Not empty space. Not another dimension. Just more space. Expansion doesn't need a container. It's not like air filling a balloon. It's the balloon itself growing. That's one of the hardest truths to absorb. But once it settles in, it's oddly peaceful. The universe doesn't need boundaries. It just needs time. And that's what we're really talking about, time. The observable universe isn't a sphere in space. It's a sphere in time. You can imagine yourself sitting right at the center, and every layer outward is another chapter in cosmic history. The closer something is, the more recent it is. The farther out you look, the further back you go. At the very edge, you reach the beginning, the first light that ever escaped the fog of creation. It's hard to picture, but you live inside that sphere. Every direction you look is the past rushing toward you at the speed of light. When we build telescopes, massive mirrors and satellites orbiting high above the Earth, we're not just trying to see farther. We're trying to see earlier, to glimpse the universe when it was young, hot, and wild. Those images, the deep fields full of tiny, ancient galaxies, aren't snapshots of distance, they're fossils of time. There's a kind of poetry in that, isn't there? The universe doesn't hide its past in books or archives. It lets its history travel, photon by photon, across the void. The story is literally written in light. And you, lying there listening, are part of that story. Your body is made from the dust of those first stars, the atoms that once burned bright and scattered their ashes across creation. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen filling your lungs, all of it was forged in those stars. You are a piece of the universe that learned to look back at itself. And here's the part that always makes me smile. The light that left Earth tonight will keep traveling long after we're gone. Maybe one day it'll brush across another world, around another star, and someone, somewhere, will look up at their night sky and see a faint glimmer that used to be us. They'll see our past, the way we see the universes. Everything we are becomes part of the light, part of the timeline, woven into the quiet hum of eternity. That's why the idea of the observable universe feels both humbling and comforting. It means there's always more. Beyond the horizon of light, beyond the farthest galaxies we can see, the universe keeps going. There could be trillions more galaxies out there, unlit by our telescopes, unseen and maybe unreachable forever. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means the light hasn't arrived yet. So when you lie there, half drifting between thoughts, think about that. The universe isn't hiding from you. It's just still on its way. The light is coming slowly, silently, one photon at a time. It's been traveling since before your species existed, before your planet formed, before the Milky Way found its spiral shape. And it's still traveling now, falling softly onto your world as you breathe in the quiet of the night. There's something beautifully circular about that, too. The universe sends its light forward in time, and we, made of the same ancient matter, catch it, decode it, and send our own light back. Our stories, our laughter, our signals, all of it radiates outward. Maybe one day, somewhere far away, someone will be watching, wondering what we were like. And they'll see us the way we see the stars, not as they are, but as they were. Little echoes of existence, still shining long after the voices have faded. You don't have to understand every detail of cosmology to feel it. Just knowing that the light around you is older than history itself is enough. It's not abstract. It's here, washing over you. Every glimmer, every breath of warmth, every faint reflection off your skin is part of that grand, cosmic exchange. You're both observer and observed. The universe looks at itself through your eyes, just for a moment, before the light keeps going. And in that realization, there's peace. You don't need to reach for the edge. You don't need to find the end. Everything that ever was is already arriving. Right here, right now, in the glow that touches you from across time. Imagine holding a balloon between your hands. It's small, soft, cool against your skin. Now, slowly you start to blow air into it. The surface stretches smooth and glistening, and the tiny dots you drew earlier, little galaxies, maybe begin to drift apart. None of the dots move on their own, but the space between them grows. That's what it means when we say the universe is expanding. Not that galaxies are flying through space, but that space itself is stretching like the surface of your balloon. If you were a tiny creature living on that balloon, walking across its surface, you'd see every other point moving away from you. You might even think you were at the center of the universe. But everyone else would think the same thing, no matter where they stood. That's the quiet joke the universe plays. It looks like everything is running away from you, but really, it's all just making room for itself. The first time scientists realized this, it broke the neat little boxes they'd built for reality. For centuries, we thought of the cosmos as fixed, steady, eternal. Then came Hubble, measuring the light from distant galaxies, noticing that the farther away they were, the redder their light appeared, stretched by motion, like a siren fading as it speeds away. It was the first clue that the universe isn't a static stage, but a living, changing thing. Space is not the backdrop. It's part of the story. And the story is still being written. Every second, every breath you take, the space between galaxies grows. The stars above you tonight are a little farther apart than they were this morning. You can't feel it, of course. The fabric of space expands everywhere, but it's weak compared to the forces that hold us together. Your atoms don't drift apart. The Earth doesn't lose its orbit. Gravity and electromagnetism cling tightly, whispering, "Not yet." But in the vast emptiness between clusters of galaxies, the stretching never stops. It's such a gentle motion, you might not believe it's happening. Yet over billions of years, it becomes everything. Galaxies that once were neighbors drift apart until their light can no longer bridge the gap. Eventually, the night sky will grow lonelier. The distant galaxies will fade beyond the reach of even our best telescopes. swallowed by the dark acceleration of space. It's a strange kind of poetry. The more the universe expands, the less of it we'll be able to see. The future, in some far epoch, will hold only silence and the faint glow of what's left behind. And yet, expansion isn't destruction. It's creation. The universe isn't tearing itself apart. It's growing into new shapes, making more room for time, for possibility, for the quiet miracle of existence itself. Imagine space as a fabric, smooth and pliant. Now imagine that fabric stretching not into something, but expanding within itself. There's no outside for it to grow into. It just becomes more of what it already is. That's the hardest part to grasp, that there's no edge being pushed outward, no dark abyss being filled. Expansion is the universe making more of itself. Think of it this way. When bread dough rises, the raisins inside don't move on their own. They just go along for the ride as the dough expands. Each raisin feels like everything else is drifting away, but really, it's the space between them that's growing. That's what's happening right now, all around you. The galaxies are raisins. The dough is space-time. In the oven, it's the relentless heat of cosmic energy driving everything forward. What's remarkable is how uniform it all is. No matter where you look, in any direction, the universe expands the same way. That tells us something profound. It doesn't have a preferred center. There's no special point where the expansion began, no spot where the bang happened. The Big Bang wasn't a firework exploding into space. It was space itself stretching out from an unimaginably dense state. Everywhere was the center, because everywhere was that singularity. You're standing in the middle of the Big Bang's aftermath, not next to it, not outside it, but inside the very process that began it all. If you could somehow watch this expansion and fast forward, you'd see galaxies racing apart, clusters pulling away from each other, like a film of the universe exhaling. But inside each cluster, gravity holds firm, binding the stars and planets together in smaller pockets of stability. That's why your night sky still feels familiar. On the grandest scales, everything's drifting. On the smaller ones, things cling, refusing to let go. There's a kind of tenderness in that balance. The same laws that let the universe grow also let it hold on. To stars, to planets, to you. Expansion and connection exist together, like the inhale and exhale of a cosmic breath. Too much one way, and everything tears apart. Too much the other, and the universe collapses back in on itself. But somehow, we live in the middle, right at the sweet spot between holding and releasing. When you hear that the universe is expanding faster and faster, it might sound like chaos. But in truth, it's the quietest acceleration imaginable. The driver behind it is something we call dark energy, a name that's less of an explanation and more of a placeholder for our confusion. We don't know what it is. We just know it's there, woven into the very nature of space. It pushes outward, countering gravity, ensuring that expansion never stops. Some scientists think it's constant, others think it might change over time. But whatever it is, it's gentle and unstoppable. And that means the universe doesn't just grow, it evolves. Galaxies drift apart, stars die, new stars form from their ashes. Even as the cosmos stretches, it keeps recycling itself. Every element heavier than hydrogen, the carbon in your breath, the gold on your finger, the calcium in your teeth, was made in the hearts of stars that exploded long before Earth existed. Expansion doesn't erase the past. It carries it forward, scattering it into new beginnings. When you look up at the night sky, you're seeing this expansion frozen in time. The light from distant galaxies has been stretched by the very space it traveled through. That's what gives us the redshift, the universal clue that everything is moving apart. Each color of light is a record of how far and how fast its source has drifted. The farther away something is, the more stretched its light becomes. In that way, every beam of light is a story about distance and time, a cosmic diary written in color. And yet, even with all this knowledge, there's something profoundly soothing about the mystery. You can't feel the expansion under your skin. You don't wake up in the morning to find your hands farther apart than they were last night. The stretching happens on scales so vast that for you, it might as well not exist. And still, it's happening everywhere quietly, faithfully. That's the part one love most. The idea that the universe doesn't need your permission to grow. It doesn't shout or hurry. It simply continues, slow and certain, like a tide that never recedes. It's patient enough to let galaxies bloom, stars ignite, life arise, and then drift gently into the future. Maybe that's a lesson hidden in all this, that growth doesn't always have to be explosive. Sometimes it's quiet, almost invisible. You expand, too, not into anything but within yourself. You become more of what you already are. And maybe that's how the universe feels, in its own vast, silent way, content to stretch, to breathe, to make room for whatever comes next. So, as you lie there listening, imagine that balloon again. Each inhale you take mirrors the universe's expansion, a slow, steady breath that's been going on for nearly 14 billion years. You're part of that rhythm. Every atom in you was once scattered in that first great exhale. And someday, long after your light has faded, those atoms will drift outward again, carried by the same expansion that began it all. The universe isn't moving away from you. It's moving with you. You're both part of the same unfolding story, the same stretch, the same breath, the same beautiful, endless becoming. If you lie still for a moment and let your thoughts drift outward, you might start to imagine the universe as a kind of fabric, smooth, quiet, stretching far beyond sight. The question is, how is that fabric shaped? Does it curve gently like the surface of a globe, fold inward like a saddle, or stretch out perfectly flat in every direction? It's one of the oldest questions in cosmology, and one of the strangest because it's not just about shape, it's about destiny. When you look up at the night sky, you're seeing a tiny patch of this fabric. To you, it feels flat. Light travels in straight lines. Buildings don't curve. Planets don't roll off edges. But if you zoom out, way out, the geometry might change. On the largest scales, the universe can bend in three possible ways: closed like a sphere, open like a saddle, or flat like an endless sheet. Now, before you fall asleep thinking of equations and angles, let's turn that into something you can feel. Imagine you're walking on a huge planet made of glass. Beneath your feet, the surface glows faintly, curving ever so slightly downward as it disappears into the distance. You keep walking, and after what feels like forever, you realize the horizon looks familiar. You've come full circle without ever turning around. That's what a closed universe would feel like, a cosmic loop. Finite in size, but without edges. You could travel forever and eventually end up where you started, your footprints wrapping around the cosmos like a ribbon tied to itself. Now imagine a different walk, this time across a strange stretched surface, one that dips and rolls like the back of a giant saddle. No matter which way you go, it curves away beneath you, always bending outward. This is an open universe, one that never loops, never ends, forever expanding into deeper and deeper curvature. In this kind of universe, parallel lines that start together drift apart over time. Space itself can't contain its own openness. It's like living inside a thought that never stops unfolding. And finally, the third option, the flat universe. No curvature, no looping, no tipping edges. Just straight lines that stay straight forever. It sounds simple, even boring, but in truth, it's the strangest of all. A perfectly flat universe stretches infinitely in every direction. It means that space doesn't fold back on itself. It just keeps going. You could walk forever and never return. No loops, no edges, no return trip home. Scientists have spent decades trying to figure out which version we live in. They measured the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow from the Big Bang, to see how light bends across the universe. And after all those measurements, the answer turned out to be beautifully frustrating. The universe is very, very close to flat. So close that if there's curvature at all, it's too subtle for us to see. It's like looking at the surface of the ocean from an airplane. From up there, the waves look smooth. Only when you dive in do you realize how much it actually moves. Flat doesn't mean simple, though. It means balanced. An almost miraculous equilibrium between the pull of gravity and the outward push of expansion. Too much matter, and the universe would have curved inward, eventually collapsing back into itself. Too little, and it would have curved outward, expanding into emptiness too fast for galaxies to form. But here we are, balanced right in between, on the razor's edge of geometry, where the cosmos is neither doomed to collapse nor destined to tear apart immediately. There's something almost poetic about that balance. The entire universe, with all its billions of galaxies and trillions of stars, sits perfectly poised between falling and flying apart. Like a tightrope walker, gravity and expansion keep each other in check. You could call it coincidence, but it feels more like grace. If the universe were closed, we might one day see the ultimate return. Everything folding back inward, galaxies reversing their expansion, stars collapsing into the same dense fire from which they were born. Cosmologists call it the Big Crunch, a grand finale where time itself might start to rewind. But if it's open, the opposite happens. The universe keeps stretching forever, cooling, dimming, until even light becomes a rare memory. That's the big freeze, a slow, quiet fade into nothingness. And if the universe really is perfectly flat, balanced forever on that line, then maybe it just keeps going. Not collapsing, not freezing entirely, just expanding endlessly at a steady, unhurried pace. You can almost hear it, a long, patient sigh of existence. It's strange to think about space as something that has shape. We tend to think of shape as belonging to objects, not emptiness. But in physics, space is an object. It can bend, it can stretch, it can ripple when massive things move through it. Gravity isn't a force pulling you down, it's space itself curving around mass. The ground holds you because Earth warps the fabric beneath your feet. You're literally following the curve of space-time, even while standing still. It's happening all the time, in every direction. A massive star bends the path of light that passes near it, like glass bending a beam. The entire galaxy curves the space within it, holding planets and moons in their graceful orbits. You could think of it as an invisible architecture, a design so subtle we never notice we're walking across it. Now imagine floating in that space. No sound, no up or down, just the slow pulse of your own heartbeat echoing in the silence. Out here, curvature isn't just math. It's motion, a soft rhythm that ties everything together. Even light, the fastest thing in the universe, follows those curves. When we look deep into space, what we see isn't just distance. It's the geometry of reality itself, drawn in starlight. That geometry tells a story. A flat universe implies balance. A closed one implies return. An open one implies escape. Each shape comes with its own destiny, and though we may not know which one is true, we're already living its story. Every time you look at the stars, you're seeing light that's followed those invisible lines, bent and stretched across billions of years, finally arriving to rest on your eyes. You are reading the universe's shape with your vision, even if you don't know it. And yet, despite all our instruments, all our telescopes, all our theories, we're still only seeing a tiny patch. We might think the universe is flat because we're too small to see the curve. Maybe we're like ants walking on a giant balloon, convinced we live on a straight plane because the curve is too gentle to feel. Maybe, somewhere far beyond our reach, the universe loops back on itself, folding space like paper. We don't know. And somehow, that not knowing makes the whole thing more beautiful. Because it means there's always more to wonder about, more to measure, more to imagine. When you lie under the night sky, what you're really seeing isn't a ceiling. It's the inside of something so vast it can't even be called big. It's not a box or a bubble or a map. It's the pure expression of where. And as you breathe in slowly, feeling your chest rise and fall, you can think of yourself as part of that same geometry. The air moving through your lungs, the atoms in your skin, the gentle pull of the earth beneath you. All of it exists inside the same curved space that shapes galaxies. You're not separate from it. You're made of it. The shape of the universe isn't just out there. It's here, around you, through you, holding you in place as you drift towards sleep. You don't have to solve it or define it. You just have to feel it, the way you feel gravity's pull or the soft warmth of the night. Somewhere in that balance, between closed and open, between fall and flight, you find yourself. And maybe that's the quiet truth of it all. We don't live in the universe's shape. We live as it. Every heartbeat, every thought, every dream adds one more ripple to the great, curved fabric that keeps unfolding, steady and calm, into whatever comes next. If you stare at the ceiling long enough in the dark, your eyes start to imagine patterns that aren't really there, tiny loops, faint lines that seem to bend and return to where they began. That's the mind trying to find order, the same way we try to find shape in the universe. But what if the cosmos itself actually does that? What if the universe isn't just vast, but connected back onto itself in secret? Like a room full of mirrors that never quite show you the edge. Topology is the quiet art of asking that question, of wondering not what the universe looks like, but how it's connected. Geometry describes the shape of space, its curves and lines. Topology, though, it's about the deep structure beneath that shape. It's about the way space might fold, twist, and wrap through itself without us ever knowing. You can imagine it like this. You're walking through a forest that stretches endlessly in every direction. You walk for days, maybe weeks, but somehow the trees never change. You start to notice patterns, the same crooked branch, the same moss-covered rock, and eventually a quiet suspicion grows in your chest. Maybe you're not walking into new territory at all. Maybe you're walking in circles, through a world that loops back on itself so smoothly you don't notice the seam. That's one way the universe could be shaped. It could be finite, yet unbounded. You could travel in one direction forever and eventually return to where you started, without ever encountering an edge. The space itself could wrap around in 3 dimensions, like a cosmic video game where the world loops perfectly. Step out on one side, and you reappear on the other. Physicists sometimes call this a 3 torus, like the shape of a donut, but extended into all directions. If you lived inside such a universe, light could travel all the way around and return from behind you. You might see ghostly copies of the same galaxy from different angles, the same stars appearing in multiple spots across the sky. Echoes of reality repeating themselves. But because the universe is expanding, because light stretches and fades, those duplicates might be too dim, too far, too ancient for us to notice. The loops are there, hiding, but blurred by time itself. It's a haunting idea, isn't it? That you might be surrounded by subtle repetitions. Cosmic déjà vu written into the fabric of everything. Maybe some of the galaxies we see are not faraway strangers, but old friends seen again from a different path, their light having taken a longer route through space. If the universe does fold like that, we wouldn't need an edge. We'd be living in a grand illusion of infinity, finite space giving the impression of endlessness. Think of it another way. Imagine a floor covered in identical tiles that stretch in every direction. You walk across it, and no matter where you go, the pattern repeats. You can't tell where it begins or ends because there isn't a beginning or end. That's what a repeating topology feels like. Everywhere looks the same because everywhere connects. If that's true, the night sky is a map not just of distance, but of repetition. The stars aren't random. They're part of a deeper symmetry, like notes in a song played again and again. each time echoing through another corridor of space. Scientists have searched for these patterns, matching circles in the cosmic microwave background, signals that might betray a looping universe. But so far, the sky stays quiet, smooth, infinite looking. Still, there's comfort in imagining it. Because if space connects back on itself, then maybe everything is connected in ways we can't see. Maybe your heartbeat, your breath, the quiet rhythm of your thoughts, they all ripple through this fabric and return, faintly, in a distant hum of the cosmos. Maybe nothing ever really disappears. It just loops. And that thought brings a strange peace. Because the idea of infinity can feel cold and lonely, an endless, unreachable expanse. But a looping universe? That feels intimate, close, like everything eventually comes home. When you think about it, even your own life follows a kind of topology. Moments repeat, patterns circle back. You meet the same lessons in new disguises, feel the same emotions wearing different names. You keep walking through what feels like new territory, only to realize you've been here before. Maybe that's not a flaw in the design. Maybe it's the nature of it. The universe loves loops. You can see them everywhere. The orbits of planets, the cycles of seasons, the spirals of galaxies. From the turning of an atom's electrons to the arc of stars spinning around black holes, everything dances in circles. Even time itself, for some theories, might not be linear. Maybe it's curved like space. Maybe it folds back, connecting beginnings and endings in a perfect loop we can't yet perceive. There's a quiet humility in that thought. We like to think of progress as a straight line, a journey from start to finish. But maybe it's more like a spiral staircase, always rising, always changing, yet somehow always circling the same center. The cosmos seems to move like that, repeating, expanding, yet always containing its own echoes. If you listen closely enough, even silence has rhythm. The spaces between sounds, the stillness between breaths, they repeat too. You could almost hear it if you focus, the steady pulse of existence itself. Maybe that's what the ancient thinkers felt when they called the universe eternal. Not a straight road into forever, but a pattern that keeps weaving itself anew, never identical, never ending. And the best part? You're inside that pattern. You're not standing outside, looking in. You're part of the weave. Every thought you have, every dream, every heartbeat, it ripples across space, faint but real. You're connected to it all in ways you'll never fully map. The fabric of reality passes through you as surely as it passes through stars. So when you look up at the night sky, try to imagine that it's not just vast. It's folded, layered, repeating quietly beyond your sight. Somewhere, in another part of the loop, your light might already be traveling, circling back to meet you again billions of years from now. Maybe that's what starlight really is. Messages from the past that never stopped moving, carrying the memory of where they began. It makes you wonder if, one night far in the future, someone else, on some distant world orbiting a different sun, will look up and see a faint shimmer of light and whisper, "That's us," not realizing that it's their own reflection, curved through space, taking the long way home. And in that moment, maybe they'll feel the same soft awe you feel now, the sense that you're surrounded not by chaos, but by design, not by nothingness, but by endless connection, a universe that doesn't just expand outward but folds inward, hugging itself, ensuring that nothing is truly lost. If you let that thought settle, you might start to feel the shape of it inside you, the looping calm, the gentle repetition, like breathing. Like waves rolling back to shore, like the pulse of the cosmos itself, humming softly through everything that exists. Maybe that's all topology really is, not just a scientific theory, but a reminder that you can't fall out of the universe. You can't reach its edge. Wherever you go, you're still home. You're still within the loop. If you've ever sat beside a fireplace after the last flames have died, you know the feeling of warmth that lingers, an invisible reminder that something bright once burned there. The universe has something like that too, a faint afterglow that has never gone out completely. It's called the cosmic microwave background, and it's the oldest light we can see, the soft echo of the moment the universe first became transparent. Close your eyes for a second and imagine that warmth. Not the burning heat of a star, but a low, gentle hum that's everywhere at once. You can't see it, but it's passing through you right now, through every wall, every tree, every quiet space between thoughts. That glow is nearly 14 billion years old. It's not just light, it's memory. The universe remembering its own beginning. There was a time when everything, matter, light, space, was packed together so tightly that light couldn't move freely. It kept bouncing from one particle to another, trapped like a bird in a too small cage. Then, as the universe expanded and cooled, the cage broke open. Light was finally free to travel, and it has been traveling ever since. Every corner of the cosmos is filled with it, stretched and softened by the growth of space until it's no longer blinding, but a soft microwave whisper. You can picture it like the warm air that remains after a bonfire. The fire is gone, but the heat still clings to the night. That glow, that leftover warmth, is the first visible thing the universe ever made. And when we tune our instruments to the right frequency, we can still hear it, a faint, static hiss that fills the silence of space. In a way, we discovered it by accident. In the 1960s, two radio engineers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, were trying to get rid of a stubborn noise in their antenna. No matter how carefully they cleaned it, no matter what direction they pointed it, the hiss remained. They thought it might be pigeon droppings or static from the city. But it wasn't. It was the universe itself. That hiss was the echo of the Big Bang, still ringing softly across the cosmos. When scientists mapped it in detail, what they found was breathtaking. The glow wasn't perfectly uniform. It had tiny variations, ripples in temperature so small they were barely measurable, just a few millionths of a degree. But those ripples were the seeds of everything. The galaxies, the stars, the planets, even you, they all formed from those ancient imperfections. The universe needed those little wrinkles. Without them, everything would have been too smooth for gravity to work its magic. No stars, no life, no stories. Those faint differences, warm here, cool there, are like the first fingerprints of creation. The map of the cosmic microwave background is the universe's baby picture, frozen in time when it was only 380,000 years old. It's younger than a blink compared to today, but already full of clues about what was to come. The way that light is scattered tells us about the shape of the universe, the amount of matter in it, and how fast it's expanding. It even hints at something deeper, something invisible. Dark matter and dark energy, the unseen threads that hold everything together and pull everything apart. It's strange to think that all of that information, the fate of galaxies, the balance of cosmic forces, the shape of reality itself, was written into that first light. Every tiny shimmer is a letter in the universe's oldest language, and we've spent decades learning how to read it. What's even more astonishing is how evenly that light fills everything. No matter where you look, the temperature is almost the same, just 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. It doesn't matter if you look north or south, up or down. The glow is there, calm and constant. That means, at some early moment, everything was connected, every region of space touching every other before expansion pushed them apart. That single fact reshaped our understanding of how the cosmos began. To explain it, scientists came up with something called inflation. The idea that, for an unimaginably brief instant, the universe expanded faster than light, stretching tiny quantum fluctuations into the enormous structures we see today. It's a theory so wild that it sounds like fantasy, but the evidence lines up almost perfectly. Inflation explains why the microwave background is so smooth, yet not perfectly smooth. It explains why galaxies cluster the way they do, and why the universe looks the same no matter which direction you face. But even with all this knowledge, there's still a mystery humming beneath it. When we look at that cosmic background, we're seeing a horizon, an edge, not a space, but of time. Beyond that, we can't see. The light hasn't had enough time to reach us yet. What's out there, past that soft glow, remains hidden. Maybe it's more of the same, galaxies, stars, endless expansion. Or maybe it's something entirely different, another region of reality shaped by different rules. The truth is, we don't know. And maybe that's what makes it beautiful. There's something comforting about that faint light, though. You can think of it as the heartbeat of the cosmos, steady and quiet. It never flickers. It never fades completely. It's a reminder that we're all made from the same beginning. Every atom in your body once floated in that bright, primordial glow. Before you were you, before Earth was Earth, before stars existed, you were part of that light. Even now, your body gives off its own tiny glow in the infrared spectrum. It's faint, invisible to the eye, but real. You're still part of the great conversation of energy that began in that first flash of creation. The same physics that governs the light between galaxies governs the warmth radiating from your skin. You're not just living in the universe, you're participating in it. And when you think of it that way, all those distances, billions of light years, countless galaxies, they stop feeling so cold. The light that began before time, as we know, is still here, brushing softly against everything, like a blanket that's never quite cooled. If you could listen closely enough, you might even imagine hearing it, a soft static behind the silence, the whisper of everything that ever was. In the end, that's what the cosmic background really is, a memory that never left. The universe keeps it not because it's sentimental, but because it can't help it. Light remembers where it's been. It carries the story forward, endlessly, and we, fragile and curious, are the lucky ones who get to hear it. If you're drifting towards sleep now, maybe you can imagine that hum wrapping around you, the faint warmth of a fire that's been burning for 14 billion years, the light that's never gone out. You're surrounded by it, cradled inside it. The same glow that filled the newborn universe is still here tonight, in the quiet of your room, in the rhythm of your breath. The cosmos is still telling its story, and whether you're awake to hear it or dreaming through the night, you're part of its memory, the same ancient light, finding its way home. If you've ever stood at the edge of the ocean and watched the horizon, you know the feeling. It looks endless, yet you know it isn't. You can see so far, but not beyond that curved line where the sky melts into water. The universe has its own horizon too, but it isn't made of sea or air. It's made of light and time. It's the limit of what we can ever see or influence, a boundary that keeps expanding even as we do. Imagine for a moment that you're floating in the middle of that ocean, except there's no water, no sound, just space. Around you, galaxies shimmer like distant islands, each one a collection of billions of suns. You look outward, and you realize that some of those galaxies will never be reachable, not because they're hidden, but because space itself is carrying them away faster than light can bridge the gap. The horizon of the observable universe isn't an edge you can sail toward. It's a point where distance and time merge into silence. It's strange, isn't it? The farther away something is, the longer its light takes to reach us. That means when you look out into the cosmos, you're looking back through time. The light from a star 100 light years away left before anyone alive today was born. The light from a galaxy 13 billion light years away began its journey before Earth existed. But there's a point beyond which light will never reach us at all. Not because it isn't there, but because the fabric of space between us and it is stretching too fast. That point is called the cosmic horizon, and it's not fixed. It's always moving, always shifting outward, like the tide of the universe pulling gently away from us. Every second, more and more galaxies slip beyond that horizon, not vanishing, but becoming unreachable, their light forever trapped on the far side of cosmic time. It's a little like watching a ship sail into fog. You know it's still out there somewhere, but you'll never see it again. If you think of light as a messenger, then the horizon is the end of its journey. No matter how fast it moves, it can't outrun the expansion of space. The speed of light, the ultimate speed limit of the universe, still loses to the stretching of space-time itself. What a humbling thought. The very thing that makes vision possible has its limits, and those limits define what we call reality. Everything beyond that boundary is hidden, not because it's dark, but because time itself won't let its light arrive. And there's more than one kind of horizon. The observable horizon is the limit of what we can see today. But there's also something called the event horizon, the limit of what we can ever influence. If the observable horizon is what our eyes can reach, the event horizon is what our voice can reach. Imagine you're floating in space again, whispering softly. Your voice is a wave, spreading outward. But there's a distance so far away that even if you shouted with infinite strength, your sound, your presence would never reach it. Those places are already moving away faster than your message can travel. They exist forever beyond your ability to touch. That's the quiet isolation of the universe. Not sadness, not loss, just separation written into the fabric of space itself. We live inside an expanding bubble where everything close to us stays connected, but everything far enough away drifts into a forever unreachable silence. And even though it sounds lonely, there's a strange peace in it too. It means the cosmos isn't just growing. It's protecting its mysteries, keeping them just beyond the reach of certainty. When astronomers look at those faraway galaxies, they can see them as they were billions of years ago. But here's the haunting truth. By now, those galaxies have moved so far that we'll never know how their stories continued. Their present is permanently hidden from us, just as ours will one day be hidden from someone else's view. Every civilization that ever looks up will have its own private universe, its own horizon shaped by where and when it stands. That means the universe you can see is yours alone, unique, personal, a bubble of space-time centered around you, drawn by light and memory. That might sound egocentric at first. Each person, each planet, its own center of the cosmos. But that's exactly how the universe works. Every point in space can be thought of as the center because space itself expands evenly everywhere. There's no preferred location, no cosmic capital, just countless observers scattered across infinity, each wrapped in their own sphere of visibility, each one surrounded by light that's taken billions of years to arrive, each one living inside their own private horizon. You could say that's the most intimate secret the cosmos keeps. Every being that looks up into the sky is seeing their own version of the universe. No one else sees exactly the same stars in the same way at the same moment. Reality, at that scale, becomes personal. It's a mirror that reflects your place in time. If you think about it long enough, it changes how you see everything. The horizon isn't just a cosmic boundary. It's a reminder that connection always has limits. There are things, people, places that drift beyond our reach. Sometimes it happens slowly, invisibly, like galaxies carried away by expansion. Sometimes it happens in a single moment. But it's the same principle. The space between things stretches, and light, the message, the memory, can't always catch up. Yet, in the same breath, the horizon gives meaning to closeness. Everything within reach. Every person, every beam of starlight, every warm memory is part of the same small bubble of shared existence. The farther you look, the more unreachable things become. But inside your own horizon, there's intimacy, family, connection. That's the balance of the universe. Infinite distance and infinite closeness existing side by side. And here's a thought that might stay with you as you drift off tonight. Someday, far in the future, the night sky will go dark. The expansion of the universe will carry all but the nearest galaxies beyond our event horizon. The Milky Way will merge with its neighbors, forming a single, glowing island in a sea of black. The ancient light that now fills our telescopes will fade, and future beings, if any remain, will look up and see only their own galaxy, unaware that there was ever more. For them, the universe will seem small, quiet, eternal. The vastness we know will have slipped beyond their horizon, leaving behind a simpler truth. But that doesn't make our moment any less special. In fact, it makes it extraordinary. We exist in a rare window of time when the cosmos is still visible, when light from across billions of years still finds its way to us. We are witnesses to the universe's openness before it closes its curtain. Every photon that reaches you tonight is a survivor of that ancient race against expansion, a tiny messenger that made it across unimaginable distances just to end its journey here. So when you look up at the sky, or even when you close your eyes and picture it, you can think of yourself standing right at the edge of the visible world. Beyond that horizon lies everything that once was, everything that could have been, everything that remains untouchable. And within it, here in this small, bright moment, you have everything you can hold. Every friend you love, every thought you think, every sound that reaches your ears. In the grand equation of the cosmos, maybe horizons aren't there to limit us, but to define where wonder begins. Because when something becomes unreachable, it also becomes eternal in your imagination. You can't see what's beyond the edge, but you can dream it. And maybe that's how the universe keeps itself alive, by giving you just enough to see and leaving the rest hidden, waiting for your dreams to fill in the silence. There's a strange comfort in realizing that the universe, for all its vastness, began as something small, smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than anything you could ever see. A tiny, dense spark that contained everything that would ever exist. Space, time, matter, energy, all waiting to unfold. And when it didn't simply explode outward like fireworks in the dark. It inflated. The word inflation sounds gentle, almost mundane, like something you'd say about a balloon at a child's birthday party. But cosmic inflation was anything but gentle. It was the fastest expansion in the history of anything. An instant when the universe grew from subatomic to astronomical in a fraction of a second. Not into space, but as space. Imagine a moment so brief, it's almost not a moment at all, yet everything you've ever known was born inside it. That expansion smoothed everything out, ironing wrinkles in the fabric of space, stretching tiny quantum fluctuations into the seeds of galaxies. Without it, the universe would have been uneven, chaotic, maybe even lifeless. Instead, inflation gave it structure, just enough irregularity for gravity to gather matter into stars and planets, but enough balance for those stars and planets to exist at all. If you close your eyes, you can almost picture it. Not an explosion, but a silent swelling. A bloom. Space itself unfurling like a flower at impossible speed. Petals of time opening toward the future. And then, as quickly as it began, it slowed. The energy that drove inflation transformed into matter, into radiation, into the cosmic afterglow we still see today. The universe took its first breath, but that first breath might not have been the last. According to some theories, inflation didn't end everywhere at once. Some regions stopped expanding and formed universes like ours, full of galaxies and light. Others kept inflating, ballooning faster and faster, spawning new pockets of space, each one sealed off from the rest. Picture a foam of bubbles, endlessly forming and expanding, each bubble its own universe, each with its own laws of physics. We live inside one of those bubbles. The multiverse, they call it. A cosmic sea where universes drift like islands in an infinite ocean. You can imagine it if you try. Our universe, this bubble we inhabit, glowing softly from within, while beyond it, others expand in silence. Some might be similar to ours. Others might be strange, places where gravity is weaker, or where atoms never form, or where time flows differently. In one bubble, stars might burn blue for 1,000,000 years. In another, they never ignite at all. And somewhere, maybe there's a bubble just like this one. Another sky, another Earth, another person listening to the same story, wondering the same things. It's a wild thought that the universe we know, with all its galaxies and stars and lives, might be just one small patch of something endless. But in a strange way, it makes sense. When something as immense as existence begins, why would it stop with one? Still, even if those other universes exist, we'll never see them. The space between us and them grows faster than any light can travel. Their edges retreat forever, unreachable and invisible, like dreams that dissolve the moment you open your eyes. But even if we can't visit them, the possibility changes how we think about everything. It means that our universe might not be the only story. It's just our chapter in an infinite library. And maybe that's the quiet truth of it. You don't need to see the other bubbles to understand their meaning. The multiverse is less about proving what's out there and more about appreciating what's here. It reminds us that reality might be deeper than we can measure. That mystery is built into the blueprint of existence. The unknown isn't an error, it's a feature. You can feel that mystery even in your own life. Every decision, every path you didn't take, every version of yourself that could have been, they're all like parallel universes of memory and possibility. When you lie awake at night, wondering what would have happened if, you're brushing against the same idea that drives the multiverse. The notion that reality might not choose just one outcome. It tries them all, somewhere. And yet, despite all that cosmic branching, you still wake up here. You still have this one version of the story, this single breath, this particular night. Out of infinite possibilities, you got this one. That's something quietly extraordinary. You're living inside a universe that happened to make stars and planets and oceans and life that could wonder about all of it. Inflation might have birthed countless universes, but only this one made you. The odds are so small, almost defies reason. And yet here you are, lying beneath a ceiling that echoes the shape of the cosmos. Maybe that's not coincidence. Maybe that's the universe's way of seeing itself from inside. And it's humbling to think that the same forces that stretch space into being are still at work right now. The expansion never really stopped. The galaxies are still drifting apart, the void between them widening with each passing moment. The same breath that began creation is still moving through everything, including you. You are, in a sense, part of that ongoing exhale. If you listen closely enough, beneath the hum of your room, beneath the quiet of your own heartbeat, you can almost hear it. The low, steady murmur of expansion. The whisper of space itself growing, carrying the stars a little farther from one another, pulling time along with it. It's not a sad sound. It's peaceful. A reminder that motion is the universe's most natural state. Everything changes. Everything flows. Even the stillness you feel now is part of that larger drift. Maybe in another bubble of the multiverse, you're hearing this story told slightly differently. Maybe the words are rearranged, the stars brighter, the laws of physics bent just enough to make light sound like music. Maybe there's no sound at all, just a shimmer of thought, the vibration of understanding. And maybe in that other universe, you're smiling for the same reason you are now, because it's beautiful to imagine that existence is bigger than what you can touch. And yet, even if the multiverse is real, it doesn't make this one less meaningful. It makes it more so, because in all the vastness of all possible worlds, this is the one where you exist. This is the one where you breathe and listen and dream. The one where you can sit beneath a sky full of ancient light and feel awe. Maybe the universe doesn't have to be infinite in every direction to feel endless. Maybe it just needs moments like this, quiet moments where you realize you're part of something both intimate and impossible to contain. The multiverse, inflation, bubbles, they're not just theories. They're metaphors for the way everything connects, for the way every beginning carries within it the possibility of more. As you start to drift towards sleep, you can imagine those universes gently floating in the dark, their light flickering faintly like distant lanterns on a vast, silent sea. Somewhere beyond the horizon of what we can see, new worlds are forming quietly, effortlessly, out of the same energy that made you. And though you'll never reach them, you don't need to, because in the grand conversation of existence, every universe, every life, every breath is part of the same sentence, the same unfolding thought whispered softly through time. So let yourself rest now, carried by that thought. The universe is still expanding, still creating, still dreaming. And for this moment, you are part of its dream, gentle, small, and infinite all at once. If you close your eyes right now, try to imagine what before feels like. Not before you were born, not before the earth existed, before anything did. It's almost impossible, isn't it? The human mind is built around time. The ticking clock, the rising sun, the seasons that come and go. Everything we know happens in sequence, one thing after another. But when we talk about the beginning of the universe, that logic falls apart, because time itself had to begin somewhere. When we say the Big Bang, it sounds like an explosion, a blast tearing through empty space. But that image is all wrong. There was no outside, no emptiness waiting to be filled. The Big Bang wasn't an event in space. It was the birth of space itself. Before it, there was nowhere, and without where, there was no when. It's the most difficult thing to wrap your head around, because you're trying to picture something that has no place and no moment. The beginning of time is not a point on a line. It's the line itself appearing out of nothing. One instant there is no clock, no ticking, no light, no dark. And then, somehow, there's both space and time unfolding together. The first seconds, the first ripples, the first breath of existence. You can think of it like this. Imagine you're reading a story, and you suddenly realize the first page is being written as you read it. That's what the universe was doing at the start. It wasn't exploding from something. It was expanding into being, and just as space has shape, so does time. That might sound poetic, but it's also true. Einstein showed that space and time are woven together into one fabric. When something massive exists, like a star or a black hole, it doesn't just bend space. It bends time itself. The seconds near a massive object stretch longer, like soft rubber being pulled. Clocks run slower. Light bends. What we call gravity is really just time flowing unevenly, guiding everything that moves. You experience this every day in a tiny, imperceptible way. Your head is ever so slightly farther from the center of the earth than your feet, so time actually passes a fraction of a second faster up there than down here. The difference is so small, it doesn't matter for your morning routine, but it's there. If you live near a black hole, though, you'd notice it. 1 minute for you could be 1,000 years for someone watching from far away. That's not science fiction. That's how the universe really works. So when you hear that time began with the Big Bang, it's not just a poetic metaphor. It's a literal truth. Before that moment, there was no before. Asking what came before the Big Bang is like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question sounds logical, but the words themselves stop working. Time didn't flow into the Big Bang. It began with it. And yet, time isn't just a straight line stretching away from that beginning. It's curved, flexible, and maybe even cyclical. Some cosmologists believe that our universe could one day slow its expansion, reverse, and collapse back into itself. A mirror image of its birth called the Big Crunch. Others think time might stretch endlessly forward, fading into a cold eternity. And still others wonder if there's a deeper symmetry, a bounce, that after every collapse, a new universe blooms, each one leaving faint echoes in the next. It's a strangely comforting thought, isn't it? That even if everything ends, something else could begin again. That time might be more like a heartbeat than a countdown. There's a theory that in the earliest fraction of a second after the Big Bang, the universe might have been perfectly symmetrical, matter and antimatter, creation and destruction, in flawless balance. Then, a tiny imbalance tilted the scales, allowing matter to win. That imperfection is the reason you're here. Without it, everything would have annihilated itself in a flash of light, leaving nothing but silence. So the entire history of existence, the stars, the galaxies, your life, rests on a flaw. A cosmic asymmetry so small it almost didn't happen. But it did. And that single tilt in time's first heartbeat allowed everything else to follow. You can almost feel that fragility when you think about it. How something so enormous came from something so delicate. How time, that constant drumbeat of your days, was once a newborn thing, fragile and tentative. When you breathe slowly now, when your pulse steadies, you're syncing with that rhythm. The same expansion, the same unfolding that began at the dawn of everything. There's another mystery, though, one that sits quietly at the edge of thought. If time had a beginning, does it also have an end? And if so, what does after time even mean? When physicists talk about the far future, they speak of entropy, the slow, inevitable drift toward disorder. Stars will die, black holes will evaporate, and energy will thin until nothing moves. It's called the heat death of the universe, but it's not a fiery ending. It's more like a final exhale, a stillness that comes when everything has reached perfect balance again. It's not a sad ending, though, because endings are just another kind of beginning we don't yet understand. The universe doesn't vanish, it transforms. The same particles, the same energy, reshaping themselves into new possibilities. Even when everything cools to near nothing, there's still quantum fluctuation, tiny flickers of existence that never quite disappear, like embers under ashes, waiting for another breath. You might be wondering, how can we possibly know any of this? How can we talk about the beginning or end a time when we've only lived for a blink of it? The truth is, we don't know in a way we know our own names or our favorite songs. We infer, we measure, we listen to the echoes left behind, the background radiation, the movement of galaxies, the patterns written in light. The universe leaves clues like footprints on cosmic sand, and we, small and curious, spend our lives reading them. That's what makes it so human, isn't it? The way we reach backward through time, trying to touch a moment that no longer exists. The way we imagine the far future, even knowing we'll never see it. It's the same instinct that makes us nostalgic for childhood or hopeful for tomorrow. Time shapes not just the universe, but our hearts. We're creatures made of moments, aware that they pass, yet always longing to hold them a little longer. So maybe the story of time isn't just about physics. Maybe it's also about empathy. Every moment that ever existed still echoes in the present. The laughter of someone you miss, the warmth of a memory, the way light falls through your window in the morning. Each of these is a ripple of time, still moving through you. Just as ancient starlight crosses billions of years to reach your eyes, your own moments travel forward, carried in the memories of others. In the small ways your presence changes the world. And if time really is curved, if it folds back on itself in ways we can't yet imagine, then maybe those moments aren't gone at all. Maybe they're still there, looping quietly somewhere in the vast geometry of space-time, replaying like distant songs. Maybe the universe remembers every heartbeat. When you let your thoughts drift tonight, you can think of yourself not as something moving through time, but as something made of it. Every cell in your body, every flicker of your mind, is part of time's fabric. You're not separate from its flow. You are the flow. You're made from the same energy that began expanding nearly 14 billion years ago. And when you sleep, the universe keeps unfolding quietly, gently, 1 second into the next. The beginning of time isn't just a story about the past. It's happening now, in every heartbeat, in every breath. Every new moment is a big bang of its own, a spark of existence bursting into being. You're living in that expansion, still riding the wave that started everything. So, as your eyes grow heavier, think of that first light spreading out, filling the darkness with warmth and possibility. You're part of that same story, part of that same unfolding. Time is still writing itself through you, quietly, beautifully, forever beginning again. If time really had a beginning, then somewhere inside that question waits another one. How does it all end? You can almost feel it in your chest when you think about it. Every beginning carries a quiet shadow of an ending, like an echo waiting to return. But the universe doesn't fear endings the way we do. To it, an ending is just another change in rhythm, another chapter turning softly in the dark. We've already talked about the beginning, the heat, the light, that first sudden breath of existence. But the story of the cosmos is still being written, and every galaxy, every flicker of light across the night sky is a word in that sentence. So where does it go from here? What happens when the stars burn their last? When space itself grows tired of expanding? Does it end with a bang or a whisper? Right now, the universe is expanding faster and faster, and that acceleration is being pushed by something mysterious, dark energy. It's not a force in the way we usually imagine forces. It's more like an emptiness that refuses to stay still, a property of space that makes space want more of itself. The more it stretches, the more it speeds up. If you think of a universe as a balloon, this is what keeps it swelling endlessly, even when the breath that started it has long gone. But what happens when that expansion goes on forever? One possible ending is called the Big Freeze. It's not dramatic. No explosion, no collapse, just a slow unraveling. Over billions of years, stars will use up their fuel. New ones will stop forming. The night sky will darken, one star at a time, until the heavens look almost empty. The galaxies will drift apart, each one alone in the dark. Planets will freeze. Even black holes will eventually fade, evaporating slowly until all that's left is a thin mist of radiation, too faint to see. It sounds sad at first, but there's a kind of beauty in that stillness. The Big Freeze isn't a violent death. It's the universe falling asleep. A long, slow exhale after a lifetime of motion. The energy that once burned in stars and hearts will scatter evenly through space, never gone, just quiet. And maybe, in that silence, there will be peace. But the universe could take another path. If dark energy behaves differently, if it grows stronger instead of staying steady, it could one day tear everything apart. Scientists call this possibility the Big Rip. The name sounds harsh, but the idea is almost poetic. The expansion becomes so fast that even galaxies can't hold themselves together. First, the clusters of galaxies separate. Then the galaxies themselves begin to disintegrate. Stars drift away from one another. Planets are pulled from their orbits. Eventually, even atoms are stretched beyond their limits, until space itself unravels. It's the ultimate surrender, the fabric of reality giving way to its own hunger for expansion. And yet, if you listen closely, there's something oddly serene about it. Imagine every atom dissolving into the same vast breath that began the universe. Nothing left but pure motion, pure freedom. It's terrifying, yes, but it's also the kind of ending that feels inevitable. Like the tide returning to the sea. There's another ending, though, a different rhythm entirely. The Big Crunch. In this version, expansion doesn't go on forever. Gravity, the quiet counterpoint to dark energy, eventually wins. Slowly, gently, it starts pulling everything back. Galaxies stop drifting apart and begin to move closer. The sky grows brighter again as the universe compresses into itself. Over unimaginable ages, everything collapses inward, drawn back to where it all began. Space contracts, temperatures rise, light and matter fuse into a single burning point. It's a reversal, a mirror of the Big Bang. The end becomes the beginning again, and maybe Just maybe what we call an ending isn't an end at all, but the heartbeat of existence. Bang, expand, cool, collapse, and bang again. The universe breathing in and out, over and over. Eternal, not in stillness, but in motion. That idea, the cyclic universe, has a quiet poetry to it. It suggests that nothing is ever truly lost. Every star that dies becomes part of the next creation. Every particle that cools will one day ignite again. Even time itself might loop, folding back so perfectly that the end of one era is the dawn of another. If you could stand outside of time and look at the whole thing, you might see it not as a line, but as a circle, smooth, continuous, without beginning or end. And then there's one more idea, subtle and haunting. The idea that maybe the universe will simply stop changing. Not freeze or collapse, not rip apart, but reach a point where time itself no longer flows. A perfect stillness. No expansion, no contraction, just a balance so absolute that there's no longer a difference between past and future. That would be the quietest of all endings, if you could call it an ending at all. It's funny, isn't it? We talk about cosmic destiny like it's separate from us, like it's something happening out there, far beyond our lives. But you're a part of it. Every atom in you follows the same laws, the same rhythm. The carbon in your lungs, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, all of it was made in stars that lived and died billions of years ago. Those stars were shaped by the same expansion that's still stretching the universe today. Their energy burned, faded, and became you. You are, in a literal sense, made from endings. Every breath you take is a continuation of a universe's long story of transformation. So when you think about these cosmic fates, the freeze, the rip, the crunch, it's not about predicting the future. It's about understanding the present. You're living in a universe that's constantly balancing between creation and destruction, between expansion and collapse. Every sunrise, every heartbeat, every spark of thought exists because the universe is still expanding, still alive. Sometimes when I think about the far future, the darkness, the fading stars, I find it strangely calming. Because even when everything ends, the story doesn't stop. Energy never truly disappears. It just changes form, becomes part of something else. The light from the last star might scatter across a dead cosmos, but it will still exist, traveling forever, carrying memory in its wavelength. Even when the last black hole fades, the whisper of its radiation will still hum softly through the void. And maybe that's what eternity really is, not endless time, but endless change. The universe doesn't need to last forever to be infinite. It just needs to keep transforming, reshaping, reimagining itself. Just like you. You've changed countless times already, shedding old selves, creating new ones. You've been endings and beginnings more times than you realize. The universe isn't just out there, it's mirrored inside you. So as you lie here now, breathing slowly, drifting deeper into calm, imagine yourself floating in that vastness. Around you, galaxies spin like embers caught in a breeze. Somewhere, a star is being born. Somewhere else, one is dying. But the light from both of them crosses the same space, mingling together, painting the darkness in quiet colors. The universe is still expanding. It's still breathing. And so are you. If one day it all ends, if space freezes or collapses or tears apart, it won't be a tragedy. It will just be another beginning we don't yet understand. Another turn of the spiral. Another note in the endless song. Because the universe doesn't vanish. It transforms. And tonight, you're part of that transformation. The warmth of your skin, the rhythm of your breath, the flicker of thought, all of it is starlight, reassembled, living for a moment in you. You're what the cosmos does when it wants to feel alive. And when you fall asleep, it will keep expanding through you, quiet, patient, infinite. There's a kind of magic in realizing that infinity isn't just something that lives out there in the stars or in equations. It's right here, woven into every part of your life. You've been touching infinity since the moment you learned to count. You just didn't know it. The moment you whisper, "one more," you've stepped into the infinite. It's quiet, invisible, but endless. We tend to imagine infinity as something enormous, something you can't hold. A stretch of space that never ends, a time that never stops. But infinity isn't only about size, it's about continuity. It's what happens when something never quite runs out of ways to divide itself. You could take a single second, for example, just one, and split it in half. And then again, and again. And no matter how small you make it, there's always another halfway point waiting to be found. That's infinity living inside a single breath of time. You experience it when you look at the smooth edge of a shadow or listen to a note fading into silence. There's no clean border where the sound stops or the light begins. It just softens forever, smaller and smaller, until you can't tell where it goes. That's the same mathematics the universe follows. The curve of a planet, the wave of light, the passing of seconds, all built from infinities stacked so tightly they look solid. If you could zoom in far enough on anything, a pebble, a fingertip, a thought, you'd find there's no final layer. Every surface reveals another pattern beneath, another dance of motion and stillness. It's easy to think of infinity as a number too big to name, but it's also what allows anything to exist at all. Without the infinite gradations of distance, color, temperature, or time, the world would be a pixelated illusion. The smoothness you feel when you run your hand across a sheet, the warmth that seeps gently into your skin, that's the universe's infinite precision at work. Mathematicians like to say there are many kinds of infinity. Some are bigger than others. The infinity of whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, is smaller than the infinity of points between 0 and 1. That seems impossible at first, like saying there are more raindrops than there are numbers to count them. But that's the strange gift of the continuum. It's not just endless, it's uncountably endless. Between any two moments, there are infinitely more. Between any two stars, infinitely more space. The universe doesn't skip, it glides. And you, sitting here, breathing quietly, are part of that continuum. Your heartbeat isn't a clock ticking discrete moments. It's a wave, rising and falling through time. Each inhale melts into the next. Each second stretches seamlessly into the next. The fact that you can move smoothly, think fluidly, feel continuously, that's because reality itself doesn't jump in steps. It flows. When scientists describe the universe with equations, they're really describing that smoothness, the way gravity curves space in infinite gradients, the way light stretches endlessly across time. Even something as simple as falling asleep depends on those infinities. Your body temperature drops not in jumps, but in a graceful, continuous slope. Your breathing slows gradually. Your thoughts blur into softer shapes. Infinity doesn't just live in mathematics. It lives in every transition, every in-between state you drift through. And yet, even though we're surrounded by infinity, our minds can't quite grasp it. We try to hold it in our thoughts, and it slips through like sand. You start to picture forever, and your imagination runs out of road. That's okay. The human brain isn't built to picture infinity. It's built to feel it. You feel it when you look at the ocean, when you stare at the stars, when you realize that every day ends, but somehow the sky keeps going. You feel it in the small things that never quite finish. The rustle of leaves, the echo of laughter, the way time stretches when you're waiting for someone you love. Those are pieces of infinity you can actually sense. There's something deeply reassuring about that, because even though the idea of infinity can sound overwhelming, like a vastness that erases you, it also means you're never really separate from the rest of existence. Everything connects through that endless continuum. You're not a tiny thing lost in infinity. You're a point within it, seamlessly linked to everything else. You can think of yourself as a wave on the ocean. A wave doesn't exist apart from the sea. It rises, moves, and falls back, but the water was always there. Infinity isn't out there. It's the water beneath the wave, the substance of reality itself. You are that wave, shaped briefly into form by time and memory, but never apart from the infinite ocean of existence. Mathematics gives that ocean symbols and names, pi infinity. But those aren't just numbers. They're fingerprints of the universe's structure, proof that beneath the complexity, everything is connected through patterns that never end. The spiral of a shell, the swirl of a galaxy, the curve of your fingerprint, all built on the same ratios that repeat forever. And that repetition is comforting, too. It means the universe isn't chaos pretending to be order. It's order that never runs out of room to express itself. Each pattern is a translation of infinity into something you can touch, see, or feel. Think about the way music works. A melody isn't just a collection of notes. It's the spacing between them, the invisible rhythm that flows endlessly through time. Even when a song ends, the possibility of the next note lingers in silence. That's infinity, humming quietly beneath sound. Or think about light. A beam of light can travel billions of years across the universe without losing its identity. It stretches, fades, changes color, but it never really ends. It becomes part of what it touches, absorbed, reflected, reshaped, but never gone. Every photon that hits your eye tonight may have begun its journey before Earth even formed. That's infinity, too. Time folded into experience. Sometimes, when you're lying awake at night, it's easy to feel small against all of this, to feel like you're a single point in something too vast to care. But that's not the right picture. You're not standing apart from infinity, staring at it. You're made of it. Every atom in your body contains a microcosm of infinite motion. Electrons orbiting, fields vibrating, energy flowing endlessly between forms. Inside you, infinity is not distant. It's busy. It's alive. And when you reach out to touch someone, to hold a hand, or brush against fabric, what you're really touching are layers of infinity meeting in one place. Two sets of endless divisions. The atoms of your hand and theirs coming into contact at scales smaller than you can imagine. You are infinity touching itself, recognizing itself. The more you think about it, the less you need to understand infinity. It's not something to solve. It's something to rest inside. The same way you rest in the sound of rain or the warmth of sunlight. You don't need to count every drop or photon to feel the whole. You just let it happen. So as you breathe in and out now, you can imagine that breath extending forever. Not literally, but as part of an unbroken chain of moments. Each inhale connected to every inhale that ever was, every exhale blending into the flow of the universe's own rhythm. You've been infinite all along. You just happen to be aware of one small corner of it for now. And if the universe truly has no edge, then maybe that's true for thought too. Maybe every idea you've ever had ripples outward, joining an endless field of consciousness, influencing and being influenced in ways we'll never fully see. Maybe infinity isn't just about space or time, but awareness, the quiet continuity of being itself. So let yourself drift. Feel that connection spreading softly through you. The same smoothness that binds space, time, matter, and thought into one endless fabric. Infinity isn't a number on a blackboard. It's the stillness between heartbeats, the flow of seconds that never truly stop. You don't have to chase it. You're already inside it. If infinity already lives under your fingertips, then the next step is oddly gentle. Noticing that what you call things might really be relationships wearing costumes. A chair is wood and weight, sure, but it's also the arrangement of atoms, the bonds between them, the rules that say hold this shape for a while. When you zoom out, a galaxy is stars and dark matter. When you zoom in, it's gravity's equation telling countless particles how to dance. Keep going, and what's left isn't a lump of substance so much as a choreography. patterns, constraints, and information passing from moment to moment like a story that refuses to stop being told. There's a soft relief in thinking this way at night. If reality is structure, not just stuff, then you're not simply surrounded by objects, you're immersed in a grammar. The sky becomes syntax. Light is a sentence moving across an impossible page. And you, your breath, your pulse, your thoughts, are a paragraph that keeps updating its own next line. You don't need to be able to prove the equations in order to feel how precise it all is. Just listen to how steadily your chest rises and falls. That right there is rulefulness, physics phrased as comfort. Take gravity. It isn't a chain yanking things together. It's the shape of space-time telling motion what it means to move. Electromagnetism isn't a glitter stuck to matter. It's a symmetry that says, when these charges arrange this way, fields must ripple like so. Even temperature, something you feel in the most personal way when the blanket warms your knees, isn't a thing. It's a pattern in motion, a crowd of tiny behaviors averaged into one slow, human-scale feeling. Structure becomes sensation. The abstract hum translates into warmth. And information is the thread tying all of this together. Not information like headlines or inboxes, but the deeper kind, differences that make a difference. A molecule encodes how it will bend light. A protein encodes how it will fold. A neuron encodes a fleeting memory of a voice in the dark. The universe seems to love encoding. It writes itself into everything. The rules are the script, and matter is the performance. You are both audience and actor, hearing the line and speaking it in the same breath. If that feels too airy, bring it closer. Think about music. A song is not the pixels of the player or the vibrations of the speaker cone alone. The song is the pattern writing those vibrations. Change the instrument, and if you keep the pattern, the melody stays. You could transpose it to a piano, a cello, a human voice. It remains itself by keeping its structure. Reality behaves like that. The instrument, quarks, electrons, fields, can vary, but the laws preserve the melody. Conservation here. Symmetry there. A rhythm of cause and effect spread through the whole score. The quiet miracle is that structure can beget structure. Start with a few rules, and layers emerge. The rules of chemistry bloom from the rules of quantum physics. The rules of biology bloom from chemistry. The rules of mind bloom from biology. You can follow that staircase upward. Culture from mind, meaning from culture, tenderness from meaning. At each landing, you're still walking on the same underlying staircase. Information arranged so that it holds shape across time. Edges, in this view, aren't fences. They're interface lines where one level of organization hands off to the next. It helps to picture a coastline at dusk. From an airplane, the shore is a clean curve. Stand on the sand, and it's jagged, shell by shell. Both views are true at once. Structure depends on scale. The laws feel smooth from above and grainy from below, but it's the same beach, the same sea whispering the same story, written in different handwriting according to how close you are when you read it. The universe does that with everything. Galaxy clusters look like filaments. Magnify further and you see stars. Further still and you find orbital swirls. Closer and you're watching electrons smear into clouds. Every zoom level is the pattern translating itself to the next dialect. Because the world is ruleful, it's also surprisingly forgiving. You don't need to track each atom in your teacup for the tea to be warm. The warmth is a stable summary of countless details, a structural truth that survives mess, noise, and minor accidents. That's what makes reality feel sturdy. The large-scale patterns persist even when small things flutter. You are built from that forgiveness. Your heart keeps time even though every molecule participates with a little clumsiness. Structure wins gently by averaging out the static. There's another kind of structure, quieter still, that lives in what doesn't happen. Constraints. Symmetries. The universe puts locks on doors so certain mistakes never occur. Charge is conserved, momentum is conserved, Energy is conserved. Locks, locks, locks. Those constraints are edges of a different sort. Not walls you can touch, but rules that keep the story coherent. When we ask about the edge of the universe, maybe part of what we're really reaching for is that sense of constraint, where the permissions end and the prohibitions begin. Not here space stops, but here the possibilities do. If you tilt your head just right, even randomness becomes a kind of structure. The toss of 1,000,000 coins yields a predictable bell curve. The swirl of air in your room follows statistics that your skin reads as a breeze. Quantum uncertainty, so famous for its mischief, is not chaos flailing without manners. It is a distribution behaving lawfully, a probability field that writes poetry in likelihoods. You are not betrayed by unpredictability, you are held by it. It grants you novelty without insolvency. It means your next thought can be new without the cosmos falling apart. When people say, maybe reality is mathematical, it can sound cold, like replacing a forest with a spreadsheet. But mathematics, in its softer light, is just a practice of listening for repeating truths. A circle in your coffee cup's rim and a circle in a planet's orbit bow to the same curve. A Fibonacci spiral in a sunflower and a spiral galaxy share a hush-hush agreement about growth and turning. The numbers aren't tyrants. They are patient witnesses. They testify that the world keeps echoing itself in forms and rhythms, like lullabies passed down over distances too big to see. Even the way memory works in your mind is structural. You don't store a film reel of every day. You store patterns, associations of sound and color, meaning and motion, and your brain reconstructs the scene when called. Compression, error correction, redundancy. Your neurons are small librarians of information theory, making sure the important shapes survive the noise. It's the same trick the universe uses everywhere. Keep the pattern that matters. Let the fine grain blur. That's how bridges hold, how hearts beat, how galaxies swirl, how friendships last. And when things fail, because they do, failure follows structure as well. A crystal fractures along planes. Metal fatigues where stress accumulates. A relationship frays at the boundary where listening stopped. The break is a map of the forces that once held it. Edges are revealed by endings. Even then, the pattern speaks. You can learn to touch more gently, to place beams in better alignment, to lay kinder words along the grain. Structure teaches softly if you are willing to read the cracks. Night has its own pedagogy. With the lights low, your senses pick up broader shapes. The detailed chatter quiets, and the underlying rules come forward. The steady metronome of breath, the weight of gravity pulling you into the mattress, the way sound falls off with distance. You don't need to name these laws for them to soothe you. You can feel their promises kept. Down is down, and it will still be down in 10 minutes. Air enters and leaves, and will keep doing so. The room holds. The cosmos is doing its job. And because the universe is structured, your choices matter. Not in a mystical bend fate way, but in the ordinary miracle that small patterns propagate. The sentence you speak kindly changes a nervous system's future chemistry. The effort you make today moves a boundary a millimeter, and tomorrow's map is different because of it. Structure gives you leverage. It says, if you push here like this repeatedly, a path appears. Your habits are geometry in time, grooves worn into possibility that turn effort into ease. Think, too, about how edges feel once structure is the main character. The edge of the universe becomes less of a cliff and more of a transition surface, like the boundary between water and air where ripples turn into wind. Not a hard stop, but a handoff. The observable horizon hands our curiosity to imagination, and imagination hands it to sleep. The scariest kind of edge, the kind that threatens a sudden drop, give way to the kind you can float across. Dawn is an edge. So is a hush. So is forgiveness. If you want a tiny, tactile proof that structure is more real than stuff, lift your palm a few centimeters above your chest and feel the heat rising into it. The warmth was never a thing waiting in your skin. It is motion, aggregated, a statistical assertion made by trillions of jostling particles who don't know your name, but cooperate anyway. The you that feels it is a cooperation too. Identity is what pattern persistence feels like from inside. You are not less real because you are pattern. You are real as pattern, a sustained coherence singing through change. There's a friendliness to that conclusion. If what we are is structure, then our continuity doesn't depend on clinging to every stray detail. You can let a thought go and still be you. You can change your mind, your city, your hairstyle, and remain the same melody. The score updates. The motif persists. That is why growth doesn't erase you. Structure carries you forward, thread intact, fabric renewed. Somewhere outside your window, whether you see it or not, a star is looping plasma along magnetic lines, writing theorems in heat and light. Half a street away, someone is laughing, and the air is solving the wave equation so that their happiness can reach another ear. In your bloodstream, molecules are docking, undocking, reading and rewriting code. None of this waits for your permission. All of it is on your side. The rules are busy upholding your ordinary miracles while you lie here and exhale. So edges? Let them be lenses instead of walls. Look through them to the relationships beneath. A room's boundary is the structure that lets quiet collect. A deadline is the form that makes meaning gather itself. The horizon is the seam where night hands the sky to morning. Even the line between waking and sleeping is a beautiful interface. Neurons downshifting, networks reweighting, long-term patterns strengthening while the day's randomness drains away. Structure is caring for you while you rest. Let your attention soften now the way a camera relaxes its focus. Notice how the world holds together when you stop gripping it. How gravity, air, heartbeat, and blanket negotiate a perfect truce without your micromanagement. Everything knows what to do because the rules have been practicing since the first light. You are inside that practice. You are one of its cherished routines. If tomorrow someone asks where the universe ends, you can smile and say it doesn't really end so much as translate into other scales, other summaries, other ways of being true. And if they ask what the universe is made of, you can answer, without irony, of keeping its promises. Laws kept, forms maintained, patterns remembered, differences carried forward. Matter plays the notes, structure writes the music. You don't have to memorize that. Your body already has. It's why the chest loosens when the mind understands, even dimly, that reality is dependable at heart. The cosmos is not a pile of pieces waiting to tumble. It's a web that reknits itself if a thread snaps, insisting gently on continuity. You are one of those threads tonight, warm and humming, woven into everything, held by the same rules that steer comets and cradle sparrows. Drift there for a while. Let the notion that you're made of relationships, not just particles, nestle into your breathing. Let edges blur into handoffs. Let the room become a chord the universe is playing perfectly in tune, not because it must be perfect, but because even imperfections fall into a larger pattern that means you can rest. When you inhale, you take in the grammar of the world. When you exhale, you return your own sentence to it. Soft, complete for now, ready to continue when morning finds you again. All those ideas you've been drifting through tonight, the balloon that stretches without a center, the floor that loops you home, the quiet glow of ancient light, the horizons made of time, the futures that end in a whisper, they're not meant to crowd your mind. They're meant to widen it just enough that your room feels a little larger, your pillow a little softer, the dark a little friendlier. You started here, remember, in a quiet room with the night pressing gently at the window. You wondered if a universe could be infinite and still feel like it has an edge. And now you've seen how edges can be tricks of language, tricks of scale, tricks of light and time. You've met edges that are really horizons, borders that are really handoffs, and walls that dissolve into loops the moment you try to touch them. The best part is you don't need to hold any of it tightly. You don't have to remember the names, or the formulas, or which horizon is which. You can let them go like small boats into a dark lake. What matters is the feeling that the world is both simpler and larger than you thought, and that both of those truths can relax the shoulders at the same time. Simpler, because space follows rules, and those rules are dependable. Larger, because those rules carry you far beyond the ceiling and the street and the usual worries, all the way out to where galaxies move like lanterns in slow water. You can picture them now if you like, those lanterns gliding in patient arcs, the space between them stretching the way your breath stretches the quiet. The cosmological principle you met earlier, that soft promise that nowhere is special, has a human echo. You are allowed to be exactly where you are and still be a true center. There's no cosmic downtown, no seat of the universe you're missing out on. Every point is the middle, every observer the center of a private sphere of light. Which means your little room, your bed, your warm blanket, it isn't far away from the cosmos. It sits perfectly within it, like a bead on a string, held in place by the same law that holds the stars. When a mind tries to measure itself against that scale, it sometimes reaches for panic, as if vastness were a thing that might wash you away. But the ocean doesn't hate the wave, and the sky doesn't resent the bird. You aren't an intruder in largeness. You are one of the ways it becomes itself. That small sigh you give when you turn your pillow to the cool side, that's a local phenomenon with universal credentials. Pressure balancing, heat exchanging, molecules negotiating fair play. The same physics that threads galaxies together keeps your comfort intact. If infinity once felt like a cliff edge, if your brain tried to peer over and got that dizzy tilt, then try holding it differently now. Hold it like music. A song doesn't have an edge that makes you fall. It has a shape that carries you. You don't ask where music ends. You let arrive, crest, and rest. The universe is like that. Expansion is tempo. Gravity is harmony. Light is the clear note that refuses to be forgotten, even after it has crossed 100 billion years to reach your eyelids as the faintest suggestion of glow. Even the multiverse, that big speculative field of bubbles upon bubbles, is not an invitation to feel small or lost. It's an invitation to feel chosen. Of all the possible arrangements, you found yourself in one that knits carbon and water into thinking creatures who make tea and text friends and listen to sleepy science at midnight. You don't have to believe in other bubbles to feel the wonder of this one. The miracle is under your cheekbone, in the pulse you can count with 2 gentle fingertips. If there are other rooms, other nights, other versions of you quietly listening, it only multiplies the tenderness of this moment. More witnesses for the same kindness. We looped often tonight, on purpose. We walked straight across a floor and came back to where we started. We climbed a globe without finding a wall. We watched light take the long way home through a connected space. The looping was not just a lesson about topology. It was a reminder of how minds learn best. Revisit from another angle. Let the pattern show itself. Feel the seam and then feel it disappear. You already know this in your bones. The day loops into night and night into day. The breath loops into breath. The worry loops into calm and back again. It isn't a failure to circle. It's how a path becomes a path. Somewhere beyond your window, an ambulance siren might rise and fall. A dog might bark once and reconsider its life choices. A traffic light might cycle red to green for an empty intersection. Ordinary edges, ordinary loops. If you tilt your attention, those small noises stop being interruptions and become instruments in the same patient orchestra. Air vibrating, signals traveling, rules unbroken. The world doesn't ask you to supervise tonight. It's got its part handled. You can humor your curiosity one last time before you let it yawn and lie down. The edge you wanted to find turned out to be many different kinds of boundaries living under one word. There was the visible edge, really a time limit on light's patience. There was the influence edge, really a consequence of space stretching faster than signals can sprint. There are the mathematical edges, where definitions lose their footing, like asking for a number after forever. There are the edges made by rules, those gentle no further in that direction signs that keep energy, momentum, and cause and effect tidy. And then there were the edges you personally carry, the ones made of habit and expectation, of stories we were taught about how big is too big and how small is too small. Those are the kindest to outgrow. They give way easily when you breathe on them. If the universe is structure more than stuff, then anxiety has a structure too, a geometry, a way it loops your thoughts into tight figure eights. You can read Topology yourself out of it. Notice the loop, soften the curve, let your attention widen so the path isn't a knot but a ring you can walk at your own pace. Remember the balloon, how the dots didn't run. The surface simply made more surface between them. You don't need to run from a thought. Make a little more space around it. Suddenly there's room for sleep to pass. All the evidence we touched, the afterglow of the first light, the patterns of the background sky, the way distant galaxies tell you about expansion by how weary their colors look as they reach you. None of it is trying to test you. It wants to be something simpler than a pop quiz. It wants to be a lullaby. The rules are steady, it hums. The ground you rest on is the same ground that holds constellations together. Your pillow is local curvature being kind. If some far future holds a slow freeze, or a soft crunch, or a last quiet ripple, that's not your burden tonight. Your concern is this part of the curve, this stretch of the song. And what a generous stretch it is. A cosmos still bright enough for wonder, still transparent enough for messages from the beginning to thread their way to you. You are living in a window that makes all possible. That is already more than enough to bless a life. So come back now to your pillow. The big thoughts can stay big, but let them drift to the edges of your attention and settle like friendly furniture. Move your head just enough to feel the fabric whisper against your temple. Notice the small horizon of the mattress edge under your thigh. The little gravity that keeps you here instead of floating off to rehearse concerns you've already outgrown. There is no exam at dawn. There's only a sun that will rise on schedule, a planet that will keep its promises, an atmosphere that will pay the mortgage on breathable air without sending you an invoice. Your eyelids know what to do. Let them meet halfway, then all the way, like two shores that never needed a bridge because they were always meant to touch. Behind them, a private sky glows in neuron constellations, and any thought that arrives now can be treated like a firefly. Noticed, admired, released. The next one will be gentler. The one after that will be sleep. And if a last question tugs, can the universe be infinite and still feel like it has an edge? Smile and answer the way the night would. Yes, because edges are often feelings, and feelings are local weather in a very large climate. Your weather is calm now. The climate is sound. You're home. Now the room can grow quieter still. You can imagine the door as a friendly boundary, the window as a framed horizon that will blue with morning, the ceiling as a small reminder of a much larger curvature. Everything within reach is permitted to rest, to keep its shape with minimal effort. The world hums, you hum with it, and together you let go of the need to narrate for a while. Let the pace slow the way a tide remembers its business with the shore, each wave arriving a little softer than the last. Inhale as if the night is wider than your room. Exhale as if the bed is learning your shape by heart. Words can lengthen now, sentences unfurling like ribbon in low gravity, drifting as they settle into a quieter place. You can picture the dark as warm, almost luminous, a kind of velvet that carries the shape of your hand when you press it and erases the mark a moment later, because everything is forgiven at this hour. The stars outside, however many there are, however far, can step back a few paces, letting their shine turn to a memory of shine, a soft residue on the inside of your eyelids. You don't have to remember anything in the morning. The universe is very good at keeping notes. Let your jaw loosen. It will not be needed for speeches. Let your shoulders lower themselves a fraction as if gravity had offered to hold the backpack for a while, and you said yes. Think of edges as places where gentleness pools. The edge of the blanket, the edge of your breath, the edge of wakefulness thinning like fog over a lake that knows the sun is on its way. In this light, even thoughts have edges that round over, corners that smooth themselves without your supervision. If a worry arrives late to the meeting, it can be handed a warm drink and shown to the door that opens onto the corridor that leads to the room where worries take off their shoes and nap. The last thing you need to do is nothing. The last thing you need to be is here. Trust the rules you met tonight, the ones that cradle stars, the ones that cradle you. Trust the loops to bring you home, the horizons to keep their silence, the structures to keep their promises. Let sleep come the way dawn comes to a hill, slow, certain, and kind, touching one blade of grass at a time until the whole field glows. You're that field now. You're that quiet hill. You are that light arriving.